Hey noble ones, welcome to Metatron's Protectorate. So as you know, I'm a massive fan of retro gaming. I just love it. That's mostly what I do, apart from a few exceptions. And just to be clear, when I say I like retro gaming, I mean retro. Before you were even born, you muppet. And so I found this video from the channel RGT85. It's got like 500,000 subs. And the video is titled Why Now is the Golden Age of Retro Gaming. And I'm intrigued, so I'm just going to like it preemptively because I love the topic. And he's got a wonderful orange beanie. And without further ado, let's check him out. Okay, let's go.
So as 2024 comes to a close, I've definitely realized something, that a lot of these big AAA games that came out this past year just didn't really resonate with me.
Same, 100%.
Now, sure, there's exceptions to the rule. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is a great way to end off 2024 with arguably the best game that I've played this year.
I have to try it. I've seen people speaking highly of it. Still haven't tried it.
Presentation, gameplay, everything from top to bottom is just absolutely top notch.
Hey, that's my uncle. What is he doing there?
And I've been having an absolute joy playing this game.
Good for you.
Before that, we had Batman VR, which was my game of the year.
Didn't play that.
Familiar, but felt fresh because of the fact that you had the VR controls. And Astrobot was a really good 3D platformer.
Yeah, I'd like to play that one. When it comes to Batman, I think the last Batman game that I played was on Amiga 500.
But games like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth didn't really hit all that well with me. A little too much padding. Star Wars Outlaws just...
I didn't play Star Wars Outlaws, but when it comes to Final Fantasy VII, it did rub me wrong, but mostly because of the fact that it was divided into chapters. I think it's just something that, as I say, it rubbed me wrong. I understand it's a lot of hours of gameplay and whatnot, but still, like old school Final Fantasy, where comparatively a lot of hours of gameplay to the point that they would just give you a game with 4 freaking CD-ROMs. I don't know, it just didn't feel right to me.
Wasn't a good game, and because of that, I found myself playing a lot of retro games
Me too.
This past year. Obviously, N64 has been in the forefront of my mind.
You have my respect for that jumper.
By writing the Art of N64 Wrestling Games book available on Amazon right now. Link in the description box down below.
I'll put the link in the description box on my video too, why not?
But I've definitely been enjoying a lot of retro games, and as I sort of sit back and think about it, I realize something. This is the golden era of retro video games. We have it so good right now, and I feel like not enough people fully realize this. I know MVG made a video.
A modern vintage gamer. Yeah, I like his content a lot. I didn't watch this one about retro gaming, but I have watched the one about the Amiga virus. I freaking watched it 3 times in a row. Such a good video.
Similar to this on Monday, maybe it was a little bit of an inspiration, but he's a bald Englishman.
I think modern vintage gamer is Australian, mate.
I am an Italian man that is not bald.
But I appreciate you got 50 points with me because I'm Italian. So good on you. Keep that. Yay, Italians.
But my hair is very nappy. But I want to talk
tell me about it.
Just how good retro gaming is right now and all the benefits of it and all the different ways that we can experience this. Because if we're talking about you only have the latest and greatest consoles, the Nintendo Switch or a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series system, you still have a wealth of options available to you. Nintendo Switch, of course, has the Nintendo Switch Online program.
I love it. I use it all the time. I downloaded everything. Mega Drive, NES. Do they have a Master System on it now that I think about it? Whatever. NES, Mega Drive, N64. Downloaded everything.
That offers games from the NES, Super Nintendo, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, and the Nintendo 64. Now, yes, I do prefer the old virtual console style because you had a little bit more freedom in there, but I do think that the emulation being used on the Nintendo Switch Online is definitely a bit improved over what we saw on the Wii U.
I never tried. I didn't even know that they had one for the Wii U, but yeah, it's pretty well done. In my experience, the majority of games work really well. There are a couple of games that function better on the original hardware. I think Pilot Wings is one of those, the Pilot Wings 64. I'm talking about functions much better on the original hardware, but it is an overall really, really good emulator on the Switch.
And more importantly, Nintendo seems to be taking it a little more seriously, as they did fix some problematic issues that popped up in The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. And they're
You know, what's interesting about the Switch as well that a lot of people don't say is that it's a portable machine, obviously, which means you get to play your retro gaming on the go. And, it saved my life a couple of times when I was like in the car with my in-laws and my wife driving for 3 hours to go to another state, and I got 3 hours of retro game. Like, again, Pilot Wings, plus it's the Super Nintendo, bunch of other really good games. And since it's showing Mario Kart 64 right now, it's a fantastic game. But the one that really impresses me is Mario Kart for Super Nintendo, because clearly with the N64 version, we're already in the 3D low poly era. And so, yeah, the game feels very 3D, if you will, because it is. But when it comes to Mario Kart for the Super Nintendo, that also feels 3D, even though it's not. And it's always blown my mind the way they have achieved that. With System 7.
Availability to play these games online as well with your friends. So,
Zero.
although it is clunky and sometimes it doesn't work all that well, it is a nice option to have.
Yeah.
Over on the PlayStation, you, of course,
GTA.
have the PlayStation Network, which has a wealth of different titles ranging from the PS1 to the PS4 era.
Do they have a wealth of... I didn't think it's that well furbished. I could be wrong. Maybe I have because I'm mostly thinking of the online service, the streaming service, and there aren't that many, to be honest. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you can download a lot of like PS1 and PS2 titles
that you can play. You can download these games, buy these games, play them via a subscription service, use the cloud for PlayStation 3 games, but the variety seems to be growing and growing. Same thing with Xbox. You have a bunch of...
Twisted Metal. Oh my gosh, so nostalgic. What was my favorite? I think the Copper was my favorite, but second was the Yellow Taxi.
Original Xbox games and Xbox 360 games, either on Game Pass or where you could purchase them. And these games are all enhanced. They have better visuals. They have better frame rates than the original versions of the game did.
You know what? When it comes to better frame rate, that's always welcome. But when it comes to better visuals, I don't necessarily need it most of the times. Like a lot of the games, their charm is the old graphics. So I'd rather play the way they are. In fact, even games that are modern but old school looking, say, for example, a Valheim, I love the low textures. And I know that there are like mods that allow you to improve both models and textures. I don't use them. I only use the first person mod because I just like it that way. It's more immersive. But I like the old school textures. And so when it comes to old school, even Xbox 360, PlayStation 2, I just prefer them the way they are. And sometimes with some 8-bits and 16-bits era games, I will not use filters. Occasionally, exception being the scan filter, but most of the times I just like to play them on original CRT.
But beyond that, you have more stuff. You could buy individual arcade-related games and different compilations that have come out for all of these systems, ranging from Atari to Sega, with the... Obviously, Sega pulled the Genesis Classics collection, but at one time you could buy that.
Yeah, what happened to that? That's right. Like the other night, I was actually playing it on Twitch, and then I was like, wait, I want to buy more games from the Classic collection, but there were no games on Steam anymore. But I remember they were there. What happened? Did they pull it off the shelf, virtual shelf?
But then you even have stuff like Antstream that's available on PlayStation 5 and Xbox, which gives you over 1,400 more retro games with online leaderboards and competitions and stuff like that. And they're constantly adding in more games, and it's not that expensive to get into.
Awesome. Thank you, bro. I'm going to check this one out on my PS5 100%.
The Antstream system. So I think people just don't necessarily look at their modern stuff and realize just how much retro that you can actually do on these systems. Yes, there's not a traditional...
That'd be me then.
...backwards compatibility, but you could play a good variety of stuff on these systems and sometimes get them in enhanced formats that you couldn't get on the original hardware. I think it's a very important thing, and it's something that I hope continues to grow so that there is more variety, that there are more games, because there should be more stuff that is available on these platforms. And then, of course, you have emulation and all the achievements that have been done with emulation. Just a few years ago, the talks about PS3 or Xbox 360 emulation seemed like absolute hogwash. Like, who...
Yeah, I remember that.
How are we going to be able to do that? Those systems have weird architecture. Who knows? But then you have emulators like RCPS3 and Xenia for the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360 respectively that are emulating a lot of the games. And in the case of the PlayStation 3, we're getting crazy levels of compatibility and even enhancements in these games. And as these
Dragon Age
emulators
Origins
continue to grow, it's not like we get to a point where they're necessarily satisfied with the emulator.
Alice.
All these people that are diehard retro gaming fans
like me.
are trying to push the medium of emulation and push what you can do on limited hardware as well. You don't need a crazy rig to run a lot of PlayStation 3 or Xbox 360 games.
Right.
And with every major update to these emulators, the entry bar gets lower and lower and lower. And we're seeing fantastic results. I mean, you can upscale 5 times, 6 times, 8 times PlayStation 2 games on pretty much anything. And these games look absolutely gorgeous. As that level of entry barrier gets lower and lower for a system specification, I think it kind of opens the doors a bit more into people getting involved into
Look at that water. It looks pretty nice.
emulation. And then, of course, you have all the mini PCs. Look at all the different mini PCs I've covered
Talking about resolution, what the heck happened to these screenshots, mate?
on this channel. I think the most expensive one was like $400, and I'm playing PlayStation 3, Nintendo Switch, Xbox 360 games on these mini PCs that shouldn't be able to do that, but because of the optimization of the emulators themselves, we've come a very, very long way in a very short period of time. And hell, you've even got PS4 emulation starting to creep up.
Oh, that's insane. Oh, that is insane. Man, to think that PS4 can be emulated soon is just crazy to me. If you really think about it, when it comes to me, I know I'm wrong, but it really does feel that PS4 is current gen. And I know, of course, it's not. I think it's also because those like mid-gen consoles like PS4 Pro and now PS5 Pro, they kind of mud the waters and confuse me. Not to mention that, to me, they're a little unnecessary, but whatever. If you like it, get it, no problem. I'm not going to get the PS5 Pro, that's for sure. But in general, it does feel like to me that PS4 is current gen, which is silly because it's old gen, but it still does. And I think and the same I would say for the Xbox One, but then again, it's Xbox One and the names are so confusing when it comes to Microsoft, literally. Xbox, then Xbox 2 is called 360, but the third one is One, and then after that you've got the Series X, but you also have the One X, which is not the Series X, but then you have the Series S, and then the One S. Oh my gosh. Who paid whoever got these names? As I was saying, it's insane to think that PS4 is going to be emulated soon, maybe. Anyways, as you know, whenever I do my React videos, I don't watch the entirety of the video, and since it's not a very long video, I'm kind of happy that we are sort of halfway through. So I'm going to watch a tiny little more, maybe his conclusions, but if you want to see what else he has to say, I've seen some really cool handheld he's going to show. Absolutely click both the link in the description or in the pinned comment, as I always leave in my React content. Let's just see what he says at the very end, just to have an idea of his final opinions and thoughts, but pretty cool video so far.
This topic. What do you think about the current state of retro gaming and how we're never going to get the Preservation Society to actually do what they want to do? It's a fine effort, people. It's a fine effort. It's never going to happen. I'm sorry. I just do not think it's going to happen. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, like, comment, and share. Hit the bell as well. And as always,
I am new to the channel, so here's your like. Oh, I have already given him a like. So yeah, I really appreciated that. It was really fun to watch. So absolutely go check him out. If you are not yet subscribed, do subscribe to RGT85. 85, so I think you're younger than me. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you tomorrow for some more retro gaming. See ya.